scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm here with web designer and host of Awkward Marketing, Rachael Kay Albers. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
This is the best. Can you please tell everyone what's happening right now?
Let me set the scene for you. So we've got this fancy sound setup here. We're both wearing microphones. We're not, and we're both wearing headsets. We're looking at each other in the eyes. This is a real thing. I got my baby.
Pretty eyes.
Thank you very much. You've got beautiful lips.
Oh.
I have my baby. I'm feeding my baby right now. We're drinking wine. We got the sound guy here pretending that he's not here. We're all drinking wine.
And it's a real party.
And it is a party.
The baby's not drinking wine, but not yet.
Not yet. Not for yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
so tell me about Awkward Marketing. So I was reading your bio, and it starts with the marketer that hates marketing.
it is true. That's me.
Why do you hate marketing?
Well, I think, why do I hate marketing? What a good question. And you're going to be able to hear my little one in the background here. When I say I hate marketing, I hate what most people associate with marketing. The sleazy tactics, the get rich quick schemes that are taught, the manipulation. That's what I associate with marketing, and so that's why I say I'm a marketer who hates marketing, because so often when people hear that you're a marketer, they assume that you're doing those shady shaderson.
I mean, but there are so many people out there that prove them right.
Well,
there are a lot of shady marketers out there.
True. Exactly. So I'm willing to throw the good marketing under the bus by just saying I hate marketing in that statement. So yeah.
Is that a good hook for people? Do you think they trust you? They're like, oh, okay.
I mean, yeah. It is a way of immediately sharing my values in kind of like a funny, lighthearted way. It's because a lot of my clients, they are heart-centered entrepreneurs, conscious entrepreneurs, business owners that are not just trying to make money, they're trying to make the world better in some way. And so most people who come to me, they have this preconceived idea of marketing, and they're scared of it, and they don't want to do it, and they're like, I just don't want to do this. Why? So that's kind of part of how it's how I build trust, but it's not just a shtick. It really is, I agree with them. And so part of what I do is help my clients learn how to market in a way that doesn't feel like they're selling their soul.
Right. And how do you combat that stereotype, I guess? Because sometimes it's hard to chip away at that with your clients, to get that idea of marketing that they have in their mind, that preconceived notion, get over that with them.
That's a good question. I mean, I would say it's right off the bat when I'm starting a relationship with someone. So it starts with, we're working together on their marketing, and I'm kind of their lead, their marketing guide. And from the very first interaction that I have with my clients, it's a unique experience from other marketers, other web designers, other branding people. So I'm honest right up front, and I'm authentic. And, for example, if I'm on a sales call with somebody and we're talking about their brand and what they need, I'm going to be really honest with them if they don't need my services, or if they don't need as extensive of services as they think they do, or if it's not time yet, if they've got to do a few things first. I'm not afraid to turn down business to have that conversation. So that's kind of just a taste of kind of the way that I approach the relationship I have with my clients. And that right there lowers their resistance to the marketing tactics that I'm going to then introduce them to and help them implement in their businesses. Right away, they trust that I'm legit. I'm not trying to just sell them a bunch of stuff. I'm not nickel and diming them. And then they're like, okay, well, this marketer is not full of shit. So,
because I think anytime you can be honest about the situation, and you can say no, I don't think you're ready for this, or you need to do this before you and then come see me, then I think that establishes trust right away, because so many people don't do that. They just want the money or the paycheck, and so they're just going to pull one over on you.
Yeah. Who does? I mean, I just had a conversation yesterday with someone, and she was in the market for a marketing team, and we had a conversation, and I could just tell based on where she was at in her business and what she had done up until this point, that if she and I worked together, it would be, she spent a lot of money, and she hasn't had a ton of results, And I basically was like, listen, you and I could work together and we could do XYZ, or you could do this other thing. And I kind of gave her a little prescription. And I think you're going to save money. I think this is going to be the right, and okay, so this person is not going to turn into my client now, but they could be a great referral source. They, this person sells like natural products, and as a result of this conversation, she's like, I'm going to send you a bunch of little gifts to thank you for this, and
that's amazing.
So yeah.
And it's just establishing like your brand, your personal brand, and your word of mouth. Basically.
Exactly. That's totally part of it.
And when you work with small business owners, they're oftentimes trying to figure out how to allocate the small budget that they have, like between, okay, so I can pay for this marketing, or I can pay for a website. And so then having that conversation with them, trying to figure out like where that's going to go. Did she just sneeze?
No, she's just, accommodating herself. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
So how is it being a mompreneur? Let's talk about that.
So yeah, how about that? Hard.
Yeah.
No,
How
I mean,
old is
listen,
she?
she's 8 weeks old, so who the hell
8
knows?
weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
2 months.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're here, you have makeup on. Like, do you know what day it is?
I don't.
I don't either, so it's
fine. It's a little wild because I'm self-employed. I run my own business, and so I didn't really have a maternity leave. I really was working even in the hospital. I mean, I had my like laptop set up on the little moving hospital table, and I was like listening to webinars while feeding her.
Oh my God.
And that's not, I don't say that to glamorize it, because that wasn't the goal. It wasn't the plan to work.
Yeah.
There was a hope that I could take a maternity leave, but you know what? I got clients, the way things that worked out, it didn't happen.
Right.
So now the flip side of that is I've got my husband who does stay home, and he's able to be with her most of the time. Today I'm here with you, but and when you're self-employed, you can work whenever you want. I can work at 2 a.m, and I do these days. I can work. Sometimes I can work when I'm feeding her, not always. It can be hard. And so I can work in my pajamas. I don't have a commute. I don't have to go back to work. So there's a trade-off in terms of I didn't get to take leave, but I do have tons of flexibility. So yeah.
Do you think it's been helpful for you in like your new mom phase to stay busy from home? Like with work?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not.
It's weird because I love my work. I really do. I enjoy working. I'm driven. I always was like, I'm not the kind of person that would want to be stay-at-home mom, but I knew that there was a possibility that, well, when she was born, that would shift my priorities, and of course it did. So there is a part of me that's like, oh, especially because newborns require a lot of attention, and I was like, well, I'm gonna be able to do it. I can juggle it. Now I can see why people take a maternity leave. It is, especially for the first few months, it is a full-time job. So it's like I have 2 now. I've got 2 full-time jobs. So I don't know, man. It's a wild ride.
Have you ever taken a vacation from your business?
Not really. Only but not intentionally. Listen, I'm the poster child of working too much, but I've taken time off because internet was out, or a few years ago, my husband and we went to Kenya to do nonprofit work. And while we were there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have one of those little routers that I can plug into my computer. I'm going to be working while I go. Well, no, that did not happen. The internet situation where we were in Kenya is not such that I could work. Yeah. And so I was forced to not work for a few weeks at that point, but that wasn't the plan. So and then of course I had angry people when I got back.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Because I always overestimate how much I can get done while
Yeah.
So, man, I'm just confessing my heart to you.
Yeah, but this is good. Be open and honest about it. So let's talk about the beginning of your business. You started it while you were living in Mexico.
Yeah. I had moved to Mexico. I had quit law school. I was in law school. I had gotten an internship in Mexico working with women, and during that time realized, I'm not meant to be a lawyer. So I decided to quit law school, and I moved back to Mexico to continue doing the nonprofit work I was doing, but just not, not in law school. And so the truth is, the way the business started, it was never this dream of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to start my own company, whatever. Mm-hmm. It was, how do I stay in Mexico? How do I do this work with young people and women? How do I keep paying the bills every month. And
Right.
so I had a computer, I knew how to code, I had some background in marketing. Boom, let's do it.
Okay, so you have a theater background, you
Yeah.
know how to code,
Yeah.
you had some marketing experience, and you were working for a nonprofit, and you were a law school dropout.
Yeah.
Well, like what the fuck, Rachel? How did all
I
that?
also went to seminary briefly. I'd like to throw that in there. Yes, I am a seminary dropout as well.
Oh my god. So how does that work? Were you just trying to figure out what you wanted to do long term?
You know, every time I pivoted, I really thought I had the answer. You know, I'd spent my young life thinking I was meant to be in the arts. So I studied theater, and I got a minor in marketing, so that's where that comes in.
Okay.
And but then at the end of that, I realized no, I didn't want to be an actress after years of thinking I did. And so I'm like, okay, law school, I'm going to change the world. I'm gonna do something. And I wanted to use my brain in a way that I felt had gone a little bit unused as an actor. And I don't say that to discredit acting, but I felt like I didn't have enough creative agency as an actor. Like I realized too late at the end of theater school, when you're an actor, you're kind of following someone else's lead. You're reading someone else's script. You're being directed by someone. You're in someone else's creative grip in many ways. So I wanted more control. So I'm like, as a lawyer, I can, Law and Order, all that kind of stuff. My dad's a litigator, so I had all these dramatic, visions. Oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I really thought that was it. And I went for it, and no, it was not it. That was not it. And so finally, when I ended up in Mexico, that was a little bit more of like, I hate to say it, but it definitely was kind of the like, I was finding myself. You know what I'm saying?
How old were you when you went there?
I was, I think, 23 or 24.
So you had finished college.
I finished college. I was, midway through law school. Yeah, so I was in my early 20s. Yeah, and I kind of gave myself permission to use that time in the beginning to explore my, to take a break from the rat race. Law school's really grueling. Yeah, and at that point, though, I was pretty convinced. I was like, I'm going to be a nonprofit youth arts educator. That was what I was doing there, and then look at me now.
But yeah, so then you were like, okay, I'm going to start coding for people. I'm going to start fixing their websites.
No, it didn't really start like that. It started like, I went on Elance, remember the precursor to Upwork, and I just started applying for any little odd job that used any of the skills I had. I did a lot of writing back then. So my business name is RKA Inc., and that was because I was doing a lot of writing. And I was calling myself a copywriter, which is not accurate, but at the time, that's what I did. And I mean, I was just doing any crappy $20 job that I could find. I mean, that's the truth. And what ended up happening is I got a couple clients. I got a couple very lucky people got me when I was as cheap as hell. And I ended up doing everything for them. I had a life coach client in New York, and I did her website, and I helped her write her courses, and I ghost wrote her blog, and I helped her develop her materials. And I even did, speaking of acting, she was working on, her stage presence and being on camera. I would do vocal, coaching with her. I would
Really?
Yeah, so we would get on Skype and do tongue exercises. I mean, I kid you not, I did everything. And through that is when I really realized, okay, of all the things I'm doing right now, web design and marketing, that is my strength. That's what I feel like I could do all day. Writing was like pulling teeth. I would write, and it was like, it would take me a long time to get it out. But when I was designing and I was creating marketing strategies and all that good stuff, that kind of just flowed. And so that's kind of when I realized this is going to be my focus.
Do you think having that one client, that lady, was it a lady?
Yeah.
You think that helped you boost your confidence? Because I feel like that first client that really latches on and you have that experience with, you two bond, that helps a lot in establishing your business presence and kind of who you are as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's I didn't even realize, she really taught me a lot, because she kind of told me which marketing gurus and experts to follow and to pay attention to. A lot of those people now I make fun of, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. No, really. And then it's so funny, and so she she gave me a lot of guidance, and yeah, confidence, because I did, it was fun because I got to do so much for her, that I got to really get my sea legs. Before it was me and my stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that was back in the day when I mean, she must have paid me like peanut. I mean, she really was literally, I think one time she sent me a box of peanuts, and that was my payment.
But you have to do that in the beginning, because you need to get people to buy in order to trust you, and then get your sea legs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you're not worth the big bucks right away.
No, I was not.
I mean, you got to work for that shit.
That's true. It is true.
So
but she still got a damn good deal. I mean, I got to tell you, she did.
Well, I think everyone starts like extra low. Like, you should start kind of low, but everyone is.
And I was living in Mexico too, so the cost of living is much lower there, and so I could afford to, and on Elance, you know, and you know how it is with Upwork and stuff like that, those types of places, it's all about competing on, a lot of it is competing on price, and I was able to compete on price, but also I was an American, which, with those types of things, there is, some people really are looking for a US-based person or somebody that's got, is fluent in several languages, stuff like that, so that kind of gave me a leg up, was that I had that, and I could still be cheap as hell. So
were you doing work in Mexico, or was it all in the U.S.?
It was, my clients were U.S. based. Okay. So, and I had some European clients as well. But yeah, it was. I purposely and consciously did not want to compete in the local economy because I didn't want to take jobs away. Right. I didn't want to go down to Mexico and then take jobs from people there. Like that wasn't my intention. So yeah.
And do you speak Spanish?
I do.
Fluently?
Yeah.
Wow. So many surprises.
Like a gringa. I never stopped sounding like a gringa, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just part of the game. But if you're fluent, so do you and your husband speak Spanish at home?
We do, yeah. We kind of like go in and out. It's like you start a sentence in English, you end it in Spanish, and vice versa. Right. Now, when I'm fighting with him, it's in Spanish because I want him to know what the hell I'm talking about. I want to make sure he knows what I'm saying, you know?
Does he yell back in English?
Yeah, so
that's
funny.
Amazing.
But yeah, no, we got to go back and forth.
So then at what point did you move back to the States?
At the end of 2016, right after the election.
Oh.
Right after that.
Wait, the end of 2016?
Yeah.
So you've been here...
A little bit over a year. Well, year and a half now, I guess.
You lived in Mexico that whole time?
Yeah, almost 8 years. Yeah.
Oh my God, for some reason I was thinking that was like a 1 year, like one-off.
Oh no, it was a journey. So you built your
entire business in Mexico.
Yes.
Where in Mexico were you guys
I was
living?
in Chiapas, which is the southernmost state, right on the border of Guatemala.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and during that time I did get to travel a bit. I spent about 6 months in Germany. I lived for a little bit in Guatemala. I did spend a little bit of time in Kenya. So I got to travel but Mexico was my home base.
Wow, that's amazing. Why did you stay so long?
The real question is, why did I come back?
Yeah.
Why am I here right now?
Right.
Seriously. Again, when I started my journey there, I really had this intention of being there for the rest of my life and doing the nonprofit work and working with women and girls. That was what I was doing. And so the plan, that's, ultimately how it all began.
Yeah.
And then, I started my business, and then I met my husband, and things kind of evolved. And but I stayed because it's freaking amazing. It's incredible.
Mexico's amazing.
It was a beautiful. San Cristobal de las Casas, where I lived, is a little colonial, artsy town. You can walk everywhere. It's in the mountains. It's gorgeous. It's full of color. It's very international. Lots of people from all over the world live there. It's a hub for human rights activism and human rights work.
Why is it a hub there?
There, in 1994, there was a big rebellion, a civil war that was started in San Cristobal de las Casas, or started in Chiapas by the Zapatistas, which is basically like an indigenous kind of army. And so, there was this huge uprising in 1994, and at that time there were just a lot of atrocities being committed by the government and paramilitaries. Wow. And so people from all over the world flocked to San Cristobal basically as human rights observers to hold the government accountable, to shine a light on what was going on in Mexico, and to make sure that the world was looking. And because with foreign eyes on the government and the police and all that kind of stuff, they stood up a little straighter. Now, I'm not going to say all the horrible stuff stopped, but it certainly, helped to hold them accountable. So that's, all these people ended up flooding there. That's really what created a big influx of foreign presence there. And since then, the tourist economy has grown quite a bit. And I mean, these days, it's very peaceful there. It's beautiful. And now it's a big tourist destination. But that's kind of how it.
What do you say to people who say that going to Mexico is dangerous right now? I wish you could see that eye roll.
Well, I say, I wanted to say fake news. That's what I wanted to say, but that's actually not the narrative I want to drive either. I would say, is there violence in Mexico? Yes. But it is isolated to specific regions. A lot of the violence happening in Mexico happens in the north, or
closer
at least
to the border.
The stuff that people are hearing about in the news. And so it's kind of like the difference between New York and California. It's like if something crazy is happening in New York, you don't avoid Los Angeles.
Exactly.
So that's kind of what I say. I will say that there is a specific narrative being pushed on the news and in the media, and most of the country is. What I like to say is I felt safer living in San Cristobal than I did living in Chicago, and that I do. I mean, in fact, when we were planning to come back here with all of the violence happening up here, the gun violence, I was scared to come home. I was like, dude, shit is crazy, Like, I mean, I was never worried about somebody shooting me up where I lived in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe somebody has a knife, but you can run away from a knife, I don't know, but no, I mean, even that, I never even had that type of a situation happen. But yeah, I felt very, very safe where I lived, and it, and the statistics back that up.
Right.
And unfortunately, this is the sad thing. Speaking back to the situation with human rights observers coming in, as a white woman in Mexico, especially where I was living, I ended up being and feeling safer than a lot of Mexican women. Because there are lots of issues with violence against women, femicide, women disappearing in different states, murder, and the truth is, because of the tourist economy, as a white woman, it's almost as though, it's messed up. That white privilege followed me down to Mexico, where I really shouldn't have it, but I did. So.
Well, it's like a weird celebrity status when you go to some smaller Mexican towns, and like in some places, like especially where my dad is from, like up on the ranch. When my mom first started going there with my dad, like they didn't often see white people up there, and then they had this like blonde curly haired little girl with them, and so it's like it's a thing, but then it's not, and you just move on. But yeah, it is. I mean, it's a topic.
It's very interesting. It's upsetting how easy it was for me to go down to Mexico. I mean, literally I just walked right in, when the opposite is not true.
Right.
And my husband getting his visa coming up here was a nightmare. It was ridiculous. And we're married, and we can, we've got a bona fide marriage. It's easy to,
you guys aren't faking it?
Yeah, we did get married 365 times. So I'm not kidding about that. That's another story for another day.
What? Okay. That's more wine.
Yeah. But no, and even, and so we, fit. He's married to an American. We've been together for X amount of time. We have got sponsors, and even under those circumstances, it was very difficult to get him, documentation up here. So,
how long did it take?
About a year.
Wow.
About a year, which is.
And I feel like that's nothing to some people.
No.
Sometimes it takes years.
Absolutely. And if we were to try to bring in his family now under his visa, that would take years. When I was in law school, right before I left, I was focusing on immigration law, and I worked in an immigration clinic for a little while. I did like a workshop there for school, and that's one of the things that I learned was different countries have kind of different waiting times for getting visas. So if you're from a brown country, basically,
Yeah.
your waiting time is like 10 times longer than if you're from like the UK, Australia, Germany. If you're from a white country,
So
it's almost like you can walk right in a way.
And there's like no rationale behind any of that.
I mean, there is rationale, and it's called racism.
Well,
but
okay,
I mean,
right.
like
Not any sort of sound,
no,
logic or
but
anything. That's
so I always think about like how crazy it is that I mean, just not even just speaking, going back to the American thing, not just Mexico, but just with a U.S. passport, how the whole world basically belongs to us in a way, and yet the opposite is not true. So it's messed up. It's messed up.
So you did all of this. Did you work for the nonprofit or in that sector like the whole time you were living there, in addition to doing your marketing work, or did that
towards the end it started to taper off. It started to taper off towards the end. So I did kind of transition into, once I met my husband and we got married, I started to focus a little bit more on the business. So yeah, kind of. And as you can maybe see from what, some of the things I've been saying, my awareness of my presence in Mexico as a white American woman shifted towards the end. And I started to become more conscious of the fact that my presence was disruptive. That, you go, I didn't think that I went in with a white savior complex.
Right.
I didn't think I went down there thinking I was going to save the world. But in the end, I had that. I had that chip on my shoulder. And, because there's this story told to us as Americans that, like, all people around the world need is like a little bit of money or a little bit of help. Go on your mission trip and like build a house in Ecuador, or like all they need in Africa is like, or and I hate to call Africa,
like the example,
it's not. It's a continent full of many countries, but all they need in the continent of Africa is like some food. So like drop them some like wheat flour or something, and that's not it. I mean, Mexico doesn't need me. They didn't need me there. Like, and that's what I became more aware of the longer I was there and the more I educated myself and grew in my awareness of these issues. And so that's part of also why I kind of dialed back my activism down there, was that I was realizing, oh man, I'm, being a white woman, I have to be really careful about how I am involved in these things. You know what I'm saying?
Have you ever seen the documentary Poverty Inc.?
You know what? I have not.
I think that's what it's called, but it's about, so to use Tom's as an example, so Tom's whole philosophy is like, buy a shoe, give a shoe.
Right.
But what they do is they go to these communities where they're giving the shoes, and that Tom's has actually put the shoe companies there out of business. And so now these people no longer have a livelihood. So instead of providing the structure, the infrastructure and the tools and maybe like the money for the locals to establish their own businesses, they're now like actually putting people out of business, which is not a long-term solution to the problem. Like, yes, these children have shoes and they needed them, but you could have done it a different route. So it explores that entire option about like dropping food instead of like helping people grow their own food, or really investing in the communities and the people within those communities, because they're able-bodied and minded people that can do these things. They just probably don't have the resources to do
it's
them.
so, and if they have the resources, there's systemic issues, like there's government what am I trying to say here, corruption, and I mean, that's, I would say, like probably the biggest problem around the world is the corruption in each of the different governments. And that, I mean, in Mexico, that's definitely a huge problem. I mean, that's huge. I mean, it's so funny. One thing I observed living in Mexico was how little sense of political efficacy the people have there. Like, and they don't. Voting is so much lower there, and because people don't feel that their vote really matters. Right. And politicians buy votes. I mean, it's just crazy. So I don't know. But you're totally right. The Tom's example is a great example, and I've even heard about the Tom's thing that the kids that received those shoes ended up selling those shoes, like because they need the money, or because or they've adapted to life without shoes. Right. Because in a lot of these places around the world, I mean, people don't wear shoes. So it's like
it's part of life.
We look at it and we're like, oh God, give those kids some shoes. But yeah. So speaking of marketing, I mean, that ended up being. I mean, it was a marketing ploy. Right. And not that the person who founded Tom's didn't have good intentions, and yet there's another side of that story too, like what you just said. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like important to mention that he probably had good intentions, and in theory it was, you know, when it was really small and you're helping like a small community, a few kids in Africa, that's one thing, but now it's grown to the point where it's like a global thing. So now he has some real power behind it, and I don't know, maybe his philosophy has changed or the strategy has changed.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I don't
but
either. Yeah.
hopefully.
I should look it up.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's gonna hear this and be like,
yeah, well, yeah, but it's that. So the documentary is really interesting because that's what they highlight the entire time. It's like how you could be better serving these communities, which Indiro Coffee in Aurora actually employs local farmers in somewhere in Africa. I can't tell you where, but they like reached out to a group of farmers with an opportunity to do this, but now the government is getting in the middle because these farmers are being subsidized by Indiro and making more money than the other coffee farmers in the area, and so now they're getting some pushback. And so, and it becomes a problem for the farmers too, because they're at risk now because people know that they're making more money than everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not. So that's the thing. I think often we have this perception that these problems happening around the world just need a little bit of money, a little bit of help, just a well-meaning white woman, you know, come down and help me out. No, it's not that. And I think that also, I think the problem with that mentality is it also doesn't give credit to the people as if they're not fighting their own battles.
Right.
You know, and so that's one thing as well. You know, there's so much energy in the activism in Mexico. You know, there's so much amazing work being done. Mm-hmm. It's not that people aren't doing this work, and all over the world.
Right.
You know,
right.
And, you know, when we were in Kenya, you know, and we spent time there is so much work being done on the ground by the Kenyan people.
Yes.
It's not a matter of just a few more bodies or a few more like well-intentioned people. It's so much more entrenched than that. So anyway.
So okay, so what is your suggestion for getting involved if you're a white woman who wants to give back or help or?
You know, I would say it's all about developing. So there's a lot of organizations that kind of prey on this desire to give back, or you know, poverty tourism. You've got like volunteer programs that people spend thousands of dollars to go do, and they go for a week or a month or a year or whatever. And really the money they're spending doesn't go to the communities they're serving, and it actually a lot of those programs are actually money making schemes. And so I had the good fortune when I went down that, well, here's the crazy thing. When I first went down to Mexico, I had an internship, and my organization that I was supposed to work with fell through. So I had money, I had a stipend, and I had an organization. So I had to find a new organization. And so
when you were down there?
Yeah. So I had to, this was like trial by fire. It was the best thing that could have happened because I had to meet people and talk to them and develop relationships and, you know, connect with this person who knows that person who knows this person to find organizations that I could hook up with. So I ended up finding, so speaking of, I was in law school and I ended up back in the theater because I found this Indigenous women's theater group.
Oh my God.
That they're using theater as a tool for education, popular education, and you know, as a tool for revolts and education, but more than education. So I ended up at this Indigenous women's theater group, and actually, would you believe it? One of the things I did that summer is I taught them web design. So,
what?
So, and that was before I started my business. That was before I had any idea about what was going to happen. Anyway. So I made these relationships, and then when I went back to live there, actually it was funny. I was sitting in a local cafe one night singing, you know, ballads along with a local troubadour, and a woman there invited me to have a shot of tequila, and we got to talking, and turns out she's an English teacher. She's a local Mexican woman who was an English teacher in a community out in the Mexican Highlands, and she invited me to go out to be a practice partner with her kids. And that's ended up opening the door to, we started a little theater troupe with
What?
the girls there. That's really what I ended up spending my time doing. Was I would go out to the mountains to this little high school. It had just been built.
Oh my gosh.
And we did theater work. And again, theater as a tool for social change, as a social tool for education. And because of this connection I had with this women's group in San Cristobal, they had plays written in the indigenous languages, in Tzeltal and Tzotzil.
Wow.
So I was able to take those plays up there, and we were able to do these plays with the girls. Instead of, because what am I going to do, bring Shakespeare up there into the Highlands? This has no application to their lives. So I say all this to say, was my time there, was it disruptive? Yes. As a white woman doing this work, it's almost impossible to do it without making mistakes, because in the United States white people are racist whether they want to be or not. Do you know what I'm saying? We're raised, all that stuff. I'm getting really deep here, but I think
more wine.
I think the relationships that I created with people allowed the work that I was doing to be as meaningful as it could be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I feel like you really got to know the community and you got involved in the community.
Yes, and that's also part of it. It's not it's hard to go somewhere for a week or a month or even a year and make an impact. You have to build trust, you have to build relationships, you have to be there, you have to understand how the community works, you have to understand the dynamics, you have to get yourself be weaved into the fabric of that place.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in a 3-month, summer trip.
And you were on your own?
Yeah.
Doing that?
Yes, I was.
And I feel like it's easier to integrate yourself into a community when you're by yourself versus okay, there's 12 of us and we're going to hang out with each other. And even when you go on vacation anywhere.
Yeah.
Or if you take a cruise. I have a whole thing about cruises. I hate cruises. I hate that people take cruises and they say that they're traveling. Like, you're on a big boat. It's nice. It's nice. I'm not knocking it. Like, I'm sure it's very relaxing, but you're not exploring these ports that you're putting your toe on. But it's the same, I think the same theory applies. Like, you really have to get off the boat and, integrate yourself into the community and get lost and be afraid and be uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
All these things that people don't want to explore in themselves.
That should be a poem. Get lost, be afraid, get uncomfortable. I want to, write that. That could be, a
Just
inspirational
write it on the wall
poster.
right here.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will start making memes of my podcast. I don't know. I think there's one person in China that listens. So Jenna, can you make a meme, please?
Meme it. Yep.
So, okay. But how did you start making these awkward videos? We haven't even talked
that is a leap.
I know. I'm just
So then the
you were in a theater troupe.
Well, yeah. So when I will say, so when I came back to the States, it opened up some new doors for me, because I like to say starting my business in Mexico was training in high altitude, because the internet there is super slow. If something goes wrong with your equipment, it's not easy. Where I was living, it's not like there was an Apple store down the block. And so it was tough. Mail. It would take 6 months for somebody to get to me. I would get wedding invitations in the mail after the wedding had taken place,
Geez.
And so coming back to the States, it opened some new doors in terms of what I was able to do with my business. It was really cool. And I think it was crazy because I can't believe I had never thought about it before, but I've got this theater background. Why was I not using theater as part of my content, as part of the way that I discuss marketing? And so it kind of, I started last year doing Facebook Live videos, just committed to doing a weekly Facebook Live video, and over the course of that, kind of came out of my shell a little bit on camera. I did a couple Facebook Live musicals.
Wait, by yourself?
Oh yeah, baby.
This is
One woman.
Were you
musicals.
drinking?
I was not drinking. I drank afterwards, but no, I did some Facebook Live, and those went off really well.
Were people receptive? Did you already have a built-in audience?
No, that's how I built my audience, was doing these videos, and the musicals really helped. That was because who did. So my first one was called Facebook Live the Musical, and it was set to the music of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
I was in that play.
And then you would enjoy this musical. And it was a musical about marketing. But and then in October, I decided.
Wait, hold on. Did you plan these?
Well, yeah, it wasn't a spontaneous. It wasn't an.
But, like, did you have
improv.
costume changes? And how long was it?
I mean, the musical was about 30 minutes. Yeah.
All on Facebook Live?
Oh yeah, it was live.
Did you have people tuned in where they commented?
Oh yeah, for the musicals especially, people totally tuned in. Yeah, that's how I did it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of went off, and so in October for Halloween, I decided, for Halloween, I'm going to dress up. So for Halloween, this is when the awkward marketing, as you know it today, kind of was born. Every day of the week leading up to Halloween, I had a video where I was a different awkward marketer. I had the top 5 awkward marketers, different personas, like Brad, the braggy bro, who's like, hey, I'll make you $1,000 in a minute, like. I got the secrets to success, like that guy, and I had, speaking of white people, I had Cassandra, the cultural appropriator, bringing in like, namaste, like bringing in cultural, traditions from all over the world to sell her high-level coaching program for white women,
for like thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So I just had, every day of the week I did a different awkward marketer, and then I did voting, you had to vote for your favorite, and
cool.
then I did a raffle. People won money. People won marketing sessions with me, and so that was the first time I had done that, and that people loved it. That was it, and I'm like, why am I not doing that? Why is this not my content?
And you loved it, right?
And it was. I loved it. It was amazing. And what was fun about it is being able to not just talk about marketing and talk about these concepts, but bring them to life.
Right.
Because you can only talk about something so much. And, being able to embody it and act it out and become these characters. I got a green screen. I got costumes.
You do this all at home?
And yes, I got a little studio in my basement.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I decided for the second season of Awkward Marketing, we were going to go off of Facebook Live and do a pre-recorded show so that I could do all these costumes and do all these characters, and that's how it started. And it's just, and it's a way to have fun with it, because marketing can be like
oh my God,
stressful and dry
and overwhelming, and
like
expensive.
take itself too seriously.
Yes.
It's like everybody's like,
and all this jargon that no one else knows what it means.
Let's just make fun of it a little. Let's have some fun.
Yes,
Damn it.
It can be fun.
It is fun. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think you tapped into with your videos? Is it like your characters? Is that what people caught on to? Is it the fact that you're making fun of marketing?
Yes. So I think it's all of those things. I mean, we're having fun. It's comedy. It's making fun of the stuff that is all over the, I try to tap into stuff that, everyone's complaining about, or people are, thinking, but they're not saying.
Right.
So I think that, yes, the fact that it's making fun of marketing, the fact that it's tapping into people's pain points.
Yes.
People's uncomfortable, because, awkward marketing, there's so many ways that you can kind of jump off of that title, marketing is awkward, especially small business owners. I work with small business owners. I work with a lot of solopreneurs, thought leaders that feel uncomfortable being so visible. I mean, we're in the age of like, everyone's a star of their own,
It's over curated.
Yeah,
that's what bothers me about it.
So marketing is, it can be awkward and uncomfortable to market yourself, to promote yourself. And then on the other side of it, there's a lot of awkward marketing that exists out there in terms of like weird, shitty, shady, crazy stuff that people are doing. So it's kind of both of those things. It's tapping into the fact that people feel uncomfortable marketing themselves, and also making fun of all of the crappy marketing that exists out there. And that is what I think people love. And yeah, it's fun. I think it's hard. It's really hard with content to be entertaining. And I'm knocking, like, give me some wood over here.
No.
Oh my God, where's some wood? Because I know,
brick.
whatever, I believe in myself. Here we go, there's some wood, I found some wood. But it's hard in content.
Whatever I believe on myself is also going to go on the coat wall.
But it's hard to be entertaining and informative at the same time. That's kind of like the marketing and content jackpot. And I can't believe it took me so long to realize, oh crap, I can just be ridiculous on camera, what a lot of people don't want to do. I mean, and here's the thing, there's so many marketers out there who are like really informative and really educational, or like really I don't know.
But it's
I mean,
so fucking boring.
Exactly.
Like, nobody cares.
But they're doing that. But I mean, people do
well,
care.
people do care.
But it's being
I don't.
done.
It's
It's being done, and I'm not going to do it better.
No. Right.
You know? So what can I do? I can be I can be crazy, I can be funny, I can be, and that's how I educate, and that's how I innovate on the topics that have been done to death in a very dry, educational way. So, yeah, I feel like that's kind of found my sweet, and I'm like, dude, I feel excited because I left theater behind. I didn't think I was going to have that in my life anymore. I wanted to, I haven't been an actor for years.
Right.
And so going back to what I said at the beginning, I left the theater world because I didn't have creative agency. And I felt like I wasn't using my brain. I wasn't using, and now I get to bring it all back, and I am, using I'm the director, I'm the writer, I'm the actor, I'm the
everything. I think what's most important about that is like it's 100% true to who you are and your personality. You're not trying to fit yourself into the boring marketer or and it's just not dry. And you can hang out with you for 5 minutes and realize like what you're doing in your videos is exactly who you are in real life too. She wants to be on the podcast too.
Yes. My little girl is right here she's like, hey, ask me a question.
Hey,
ask me a question.
She's ready.
She is ready for her close up. This is audio, girl. There's no close ups in podcasting.
That's why we do it this way.
Yeah.
How long have we been doing this?
46 minutes.
46 minutes. How about that?
We have really covered the gamut.
We have. We've run it. We've walked it. We've circled it. The gamut has been explored.
Is there anything else you want to explore? I don't know.
I feel like this has been life-changing.
Has it?
Whoever's listening to this is probably crying, they're laughing,
They learned something.
They learned something.
To inform and inspire.
Exactly.
I think that's what I said in my own description of this.
How about that? How about that?
The point is there's just different ways to market. So you have to figure out, have you ever said no to a client before?
Oh yeah. And I'm getting better at it every day. The more I say no, the more successful I become. That's the truth. That is the truth.
But how do you convey that to the people you work with? The small business owners that want a paycheck or need a paycheck.
How do I teach them to say no?
Yeah.
Every time you say no, you're saying yes to something else. And every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else.
Information.
Yeah, so I've learned over the last few years that, I've developed policies in my business, and every time I buck those every time I defy a rule I've implemented, I pay twofold, right? So every time I say yes to someone that I know deep down as I should say no to, I end up paying for that client. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a cost to my business. And so I think that's one thing. You do want to say something. I think that is one thing. That's how I can really teach small business owners to say no when they're really looking out for that paycheck. Is the money that you're making now is actually going to, it's like a loan shark.
Right.
Like the interest is gonna double you. You're actually gonna lose money this way. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna probably spend more time with that person because you don't want to be like working with them. There's so many other things that are gonna happen when you should have said no.
Exactly. That's my baby, and that's my boob too. Is what it is.
Maybe this is a good place to end it.
This is a good place, I think.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.